It's not supposed to be. But everybody thinks
But,
it is.
yeah, but everybody thinks it is. So, yeah. Hi, all right. Oh, Cheryl.
Much better. Very important. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
How are you? Good to see you. Congratulations.
Thank you for this.
Thank you to everyone for joining us today. Majority Leader Alec Garnett, Representative Tom Sullivan, Senator Brittany Peterson, and Senator Lois Court will be speaking shortly about their work on this important bill that will save lives. We're also joined by Attorney General Phil Weiser, by U.S. Attorney John Walsh, and by the Executive Director of the Colorado Department of Public Safety, Stan Hilke, as well as several members of law enforcement who will be speaking shortly as well. You know, Colorado has endured more than our fair share of tragedies, and it's always difficult to address the intersection of mental health and rights. It's challenging when sheriff's deputies have to enforce involuntary commitments, folks who their loved ones care about deeply, who are in immediate danger to themselves or others, and for 24 hours or 72 hours they are detained. But after that detention, many of them have access to their weapons at home and yet still represent a significant danger to themselves. And I know there's so many sheriff's deputies and family members who have seen suicides shortly after those involuntary detentions occur with very little that they've been able to do about it. The bar is appropriately very high for involuntary commitment. The bar is also high for the extreme risk protection order, which will save lives. It's a critical tool for families, for judges, for law enforcement to help reduce gun violence consistent with our Second Amendment rights. And if we put any of ourselves in the position of that parent of a 19-year-old who's going through a mental health crisis, knowing that they don't have the same tools that they would if they were a 17-year-old, as an example, to temporarily remove their guns until they have restored their mental health and made it out of that crisis. This provides a pathway to do that. And this affects so many families and make sure that we can help save the lives of those affected and also focus our efforts as a society on the mental health issues and access to mental health resources for those in need. And of course, as we sign this bill here today, we also reflect on the so many lives that we wish that we could have back. And these kinds of issues, when it comes to our rights and mental health and safety, these aren't partisan issues. And overwhelming majorities of Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated voters, vast majority of gun owners support this law that helps make sure that somebody who is suffering from a mental health crisis is safe as they recover and are able to fully exercise their rights under our Constitution. Many other states have passed similar laws. They've often seen it used in a very targeted and limited way, 100 or 150 times a year. We expect a similar targeted approach here in Colorado because it's a very serious undertaking. And our law enforcement deputies know that, and they have many other duties that they capably administer with regard to our law. As many of you know, the bill is sponsored by Tom Sullivan, who is no stranger to tragedy in his own life, and indeed a public tragedy that we as Coloradans all shared with Tom and his family as his son Alex was murdered in the Aurora theater shooting on his 27th birthday. This isn't just about keeping families safe, it's also about keeping law enforcement officers safe. Joining us today is Douglas County Sheriff Tony Spurlock, whose deputy, Zach Parrish, was murdered by someone who should not have had access to a firearm at that moment in time. It's about Zach's family, Gracie, their two young children, Carolyn and Evie, who've had to endure without Zach. We're also joined by Sheriff Pelle, whose son Jeff was also wounded. This law will not prevent every shooting, but it can be used in a targeted way to make sure that those who are suffering from a mental health crisis are able to temporarily have a court order in place that helps make sure that they don't harm themselves or others. And you know, today we may be saving the life of your nephew or your niece or your grandchild who's 19 or 20 and suffering from a mental health crisis. We might also prevent shootings of additional deputies or even mass shootings. With that, I want to introduce Sheriff Spurlock, who has shown remarkable courage and integrity through this entire process to stand up for something that honors the legacy of his deputy, Zach Parrish, and will be a positive testimony to both our Second Amendment rights and to people keeping people safe here in the case of the state of Colorado. Sheriff Spurlock.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for signing this bill today. I had the opportunity to speak to Zach and Chris Parrish, the parents of Zach Parrish. And I want to just say a couple things from what they wanted to share. This is how honorable and courageous and caring this family is that they state today that two families lost their sons on July 31st. And it could have been averted if we had the ability that this law will give law enforcement to intervene on those extreme cases where we have individuals who are so extremely mentally ill and unable to make rational decisions for themselves, where law enforcement can intervene and temporarily take away a firearm until they can get care and treatment and get healthy again. And from a father who lost his son, to see it in that way is inspiring to me, and it should be for everyone in the state of Colorado, because his concern is other people. And when I had that conversation with him, and this is not the first time I had it with him, but I had the conversation with him, I knew then that I was doing the right thing to stand for this and to stand that we can make a difference. And as the governor said, we can save lives. We can save lives today, tomorrow, and the next day. And most importantly, if we save one life, we create a history for that family. And so I want to thank the House and the Senate for working hard and getting this put together. And then again, thank the governor for signing this bill. Thank you all very much.
Hi, I'm Sheriff Joe Pelle from Boulder County, and I want to thank everybody for helping push this through. Imagine a situation in your community where you had a person who was actively psychotic, who was having audible hallucinations, who was hearing voices commanding them to do great harm in a house of worship or a school or a business. Why would we not want to have this tool available to help make weapons unavailable to that person until things are stabilized? This is what we're hoping to accomplish. And I want to address some of the issues or the concerns about implementation and execution. Sheriff Spurlock and I are working now with about 15 different police chiefs and staff members from the Post Board under the Attorney General's office to start to create model policies and procedures for the state of Colorado. Those policies and procedures will guide police agencies in the execution, the proper execution, and stepping through this 30-page statute and doing it right. You know, this is being done in other states, and it's being done successfully, and we've already looked at policies from the state of Washington, state of California, and others, and this can be done safely. It can be done intelligently. We can have policies and procedures in place that guide us, and we can be patient. We can wait for the correct opportunities, and we can do this without putting our deputies and police officers at extreme harm as well if we do it correctly. So please be assured that we're going to work hard to make sure that not only we have a great law, but that we have great policies and procedures in order to do this across the state in an intelligent, safe way. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I am sick and tired of the tragedies that gun violence causes in our state. Way too many people have died unnecessarily. When I found out that I would have the opportunity to be the Senate co-sponsor on this bill, I jumped at the chance because I want to do something. I don't want to just have thoughts and prayers. I don't want to just say, we're so sorry that you lost your loved one. That's not good enough. That's not good enough for Colorado. That's not good enough for the people who have had these tragedies happen to them and their families. The people who are with us today all represent people who have lost someone to gun violence. It is not enough to say we're sorry. That's why we have this bill. I am totally confident, absolutely confident, that it will save lives, and that is the sole goal of this bill. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm incredibly proud to sponsor the ERPO bill in the Senate with Senator Court. I want to thank everybody for the work over the years. This has been a very long process. I want to thank people for not accepting the way that things are with the tragedy after tragedy, what we've seen in Colorado and across the United States, and actually looking at ways that we can solve that. That is what this building is about. This is about protecting domestic violence survivors, giving our first responders the tools that they need to keep them safe and our community safe. This is about students being able to go to school to learn and not have to go through through shooting drills. That is not the world that we want our kids to grow up in, and it is about time that we continue to move forward in Colorado to protect Coloradans. It's been pretty astounding to watch what the misinformation that's been spread across Colorado. I want to thank you all for being here to make sure that Coloradans know what this bill actually does. Last year, we had a bipartisan bill that created a very high standard for due process. This bill actually has an even higher standard from last year. What has changed? An extreme gun lobby that threatened my colleagues and friends across the aisle and is threatening my caucus to recall people who support such a measure. It's unacceptable. We cannot let this win. We cannot let their message win. What is in process with this bill is even a higher standard than we have for actually taking away a child from somebody who is at risk, who is in danger. That is how high this standard is. So let's make sure to get our message out. This is about protecting Coloradans. This is about ensuring that our law enforcement has the tools and that our communities are safe, because we know that we actually can close these gaps. We can do something. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Representative Garnett. I'm honored to be here today. I really want to take a moment to thank Governor Polis for his remarks, for his leadership, for signing the Deputy Zachary Parrish III Violence Prevention Act today. I also really want to thank the people who have worked so hard on this piece of legislation. To Sheriff Spurlock and Sheriff Pelle, thank you for your leadership, for your friendship, for your mentorship, for coming to us and saying what happened and the tragedy that the Parrish family had should never happen again, and we can take steps forward to make sure that that's possible. To my Senate sponsors, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for getting this through the Senate and making the bill even stronger in your chamber. And to Tom Sullivan, we did it. Thank you for everything you've done for me, for showing me your courage and your passion, but most of all for the hope that we have a better future for all of us. And I'm hopeful that when this bill is signed today, that we are going to start taking steps forward to save lives. This is a bill that has robust due process protections in it. we're the only state in the country that provides the respondent with legal representation, which I think is so vitally important to making sure that we go forward on the cases that really truly are with somebody who's a significant risk and who is in danger of hurting themselves or others. We have worked for over 2 years with the broadest group of stakeholders that anyone could ask for. So to the mental health community, thank you. To the students and the moms, thank you. To the victims of gun violence who brought your stories forward to educate the legislature on some of the most painful moments in your life, to make sure that hopefully we can prevent a few others from happening in the future, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking that step forward. That is not easy. That is very hard. But when we sign a bill like this into law today, it's not a celebration, but it's a moment of progress. It's a moment for us to say, you know, we did something that was hard. We did something that is going to save lives. We've done something that has happened across the country in bipartisan ways. Now think, in Florida, this happened in a bipartisan way. In almost every other state, this has happened in a bipartisan way. And so despite all of the loud voices that have come up through the legislative process, this law is constitutional. We are a state in a country that counts on officials to uphold the rule of law. And despite what those loud voices have said, I trust the view of our highest attorney in the state of Colorado, Attorney General Phil Weiser. And Attorney General Phil Weiser, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this bill through the process and testifying and being a leader to help prevent future gun violence. You know, I'm gonna turn this over to Representative Sullivan, but I just want to again say that we have come a long way in this state from Columbine, the 20th anniversary that we will recognize on April 20th. And this is a moment to helpfully prevent a future Columbine, to help prevent a future family from going through these terrible experiences. And I am proud to say that today we are doing something. And to my 2 little kiddos, one of them who was going to be here, but who I'm not sure could have had the patience to make it through all of this, I want Ashton, you to know that when you go to school full-time here in the future, that I stood up and I tried to do something so that you didn't have to worry about whether or not your life was going to be safe in your seat at your desk, but that you could focus on the things that were going to make Colorado a great place. So thank you all for being here.
So these always happen on Fridays. It's 351 Fridays since Alex was murdered. And I've got 4 or 5 minutes to try to explain to you all what we've been living through all that time that's led us here to this monumental moment. Believe me, I know how important this is. I know how this is going to save lives. And I know how hard everybody has worked these past 351 Fridays. But, you know, quite frankly, I mean, being a parent of a murdered child, everything is stunted. Everything is tempered. I'm not saying that I don't laugh. I'm not saying that I don't smile. But I just can't do it with the same vigor that I was able to do it before. So as happy as I am that all of this has happened today, and knowing that this is going to save lives, and the state of Colorado will be better because of all of the work that we've all done. It's difficult for me to just be able to grasp that and to be able to enjoy that. So please don't use me as a marker for how happy you can be, okay? Because I am elated, believe me. It just can't come out because there is too much work in front of us to get done. I struggle with the price that we paid to get where we are today. And as I spoke when we had our committee meetings and all of that, apparently someone needed me to be able to be here to talk to you, to try to make you understand, to try to make my colleagues understand. And I think they're starting to get it, but we still have more work to do. This is just the start. Colorado's better. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Governor, and all of my supporters, all of the people who are behind this. And let's get this signed, and let's start saving some lives today.
Colorado.